Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sedacca, and you're listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. And today's show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with Rosalind Sedacca. As you know, I'm founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and we focus a lot of our attention on helping parents before, during, and long after divorce make the best decisions on behalf of their children and then move on in a successful way into the future that they create. And I'm very excited to introduce you to our guest today. Her name is Dr. Janella Street. And Dr. Janella is a psychologist who's licensed in California and Nevada, and she's been working with co-parents for more than 15 years and understands the struggles that co-parents face. And she's developed a special program called ICC to help co-parents find balance and peace in their co-parenting relationship. So I'm very enthusiastic about introducing you to Dr. Janella Street and talking to her about ICC. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Janella Street.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share some tips to help co-parents.
So why don't we start with the basic question, and that is, why is co-parenting so much more difficult than parenting? Because we all know that's the truth.
Yeah, parenting offers a lot of ups and downs. You have the joy and excitement of being a parent, along with all of the stressors and responsibilities that go along with it. So there's usually, in the best case scenario, there's a balance of happiness and excitement with the stress and responsibilities and the things that have to get done. When you add co-parenting to that, it usually only adds to the stress. Emotions around the prior relationship, concerns about how your child is adjusting to two homes and how to communicate needed information with your co-parent are just a few of the additional stressors that co-parents deal with on top of the everyday parenting concerns. So you don't get that balance. All of a sudden, your parenting world seems to be completely off balance with stress and concerns far outweighing the happiness and joy that you can get from parenting.
Yeah, that's for sure. And when we're going through a divorce, there's so many added stressors. But you mentioned in particular that emotions really add to the conflict. And I'd appreciate if you could dive a little deeper, tell us more about how the emotions impact co-parenting.
Yeah, when you're going through a divorce, you've been through a relationship that didn't work out, and you're still faced with co-parenting, some primary emotions that really impact the relationship and your ability to co-parent are fear, insecurity, jealousy, anger. And regardless of if these feelings are based on actual events or a parent's perception of events or a combination thereof, these emotions can really create a negative filter and shade all of a parent's interactions and communications with their co-parent. This can impact communication and how parents react to their co-parent and react to their children's relationship with the co-parent.
That's for sure. I think you bring up such an important point about the fact that whether these emotions are real or not, or whether they're just our perception, the same damage is being done. And so we have to be extremely mindful about not only what these emotions are, but just how they're affecting us, because they inevitably are going to be affecting our children if we're not being mindful about them. Is that right?
Absolutely. And what I tell people is that your emotions are valid, and controlling them and understanding them is one of the key steps to improving not only your co-parent relationship, but honestly improving your life.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a question that I often ask co-parent clients, and that is, when it comes to parenting decisions, are you making the same decision you would make if you weren't divorced? Because very often we let these emotions impact the logic of our parenting. And so if you stop and ask yourself, would I say the same thing if we weren't divorced, or am I changing my answer and my response and my parenting formula because I want to hurt or get back at my ex? That's a whole different level of parenting, and the kids are paying the price. Do you think that's so?
I think so. And I think that's a really good question. I have a similar question. And when I what I ask clients is, are you responding to what your child needs or what you want?
I love that.
And, oftentimes there are times when those are aligned, but oftentimes those are quite different.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because what happens when you're unconsciously paying more attention to what you need rather than what your child needs?
Well, I'll give you an example. If what you fear is your concern or insecurity, and you're concerned that your child may want to spend more time at your ex's house, what you may want is to prevent your child from going over there on a regular basis. What your child likely needs is regular and consistent contact with both parents and to feel comfortable in both homes. And if you're responding to your fear and insecurity, or what you want is for your child to spend more time with you out of fear and insecurity, you're not allowing your child to develop the level of comfort in being in both homes, or preventing that relationship with the other parent from flourishing in a healthy way. And that's going to cause long-term damage to your child. So you're not acting in your child's best interest. You're trying to make yourself feel comfortable and safe by kind of, keeping your child close to you, which may feel good in the short term, but in the long run, it's not going to be good for your child.
Wow, that's such an important point for parents to remember. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I know that you've been conducting co-parenting therapy for many, many years, and that you've moved on to developing a co-parenting class, and I was curious as to why you took that next step, moving from therapy into teaching a class.
Over the years, I saw a lot of parents that had really poor emotional regulation. They were angry. They were upset. For whatever reason, the relationship didn't work out. And I realized over time that really trying to, teach parents some basic emotional regulation, basic mindfulness techniques went a long way in improving their co-parenting relationships. And I also realized that teaching these techniques was far more effective in individual sessions than they were in joint sessions with their co-parent, because as long as their co-parent was in the room, it was far too easy to point the finger, to point blame, to be impacted by, little cues or things that a person would say to agitate them. And honestly, co-parenting therapy and co-parenting sessions were expensive. Even considerably low fee sessions were expensive, on top of the cost of the lawyers and, now you're living in two separate homes, and so you went from a double income to a single income. A class was a way to lower the cost and give them information that they needed.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm so glad you did that. Is that class a live class, or is it virtual?
It is a virtual live class. It was designed to be in-person class in April 2020, and we all know what happened in March of 2020. But I found that since it's a virtual class that's taught live, in-person, virtual, that I've been able to reach a lot more people than I would if it were an in-person class.
Yes. So can people take your class living anywhere in the country or anywhere around the world then? Is it something available to everyone?
Anywhere around the world. We use a good old-fashioned Zoom link. It's an 8-week course, and we actually encourage people from anywhere to log on and take the course. I'll give information towards the end of the interview where you can get more information about where to register.
Excellent. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Well, we're going to learn a little bit more about what you do and what the class is all about as soon as we take this quick break. This is Rosalind Sedacca with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living, and you've been listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. And we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Cece Schatz, and I'd like to welcome you to Going Solo Network. Number 1, complete singles connection. We strive to connect singles in a positive and fun way. Together, singles will begin to make new and lasting friendships, learn more about themselves, and embrace our new today lifestyle of going solo. Being single doesn't mean you have to be alone, and you can live a full, fun life, bringing your vibration to a higher level of attraction. Going Solo Network is an interactive social support singles community with several platforms helping singles connect with other like-minded individuals. We cover things like relationship loss, divorce recovery, embracing being single, single parenting, restructuring relationships, relationship building, transition into dating, and dating itself, solo in business, and going solo travelers. Be sure to join our private and exclusive fun interactive websites designed for singles today who want to begin to embrace living and enjoying the space they're in. Together we will learn to open our hearts, our minds. We will begin to share and connect with others while exploring our personal life goals as we begin to make a place in our new life. We will start to move forward in going solo to actually living our best lives. Going solo doesn't mean you have to be alone. Today, together, let's begin changing your life. Today, join the singles at Going Solo Network and start to live your new life. I'll see you there on GoingSoloNetwork.com.
Okay, we're back, and this is Rosalind Sedacca with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. And we're talking to Dr. Janella Street, and she's telling us about the co-parenting class that she created that's available online to anyone. And so tell us the name of the class, and I'd really like to know about a lot of the key components that are part of this class.
Yeah, the class is called Introspective Comprehensive Co-Parenting, and I refer to it as ICC for short because that's a lot of syllables to get out all at once.
For sure.
And it is a class that offers 12 hours of co-parenting education over 8 weeks. So essentially, we meet for 90 minutes a week for 8 weeks.
And is this just males or females, or is the class integrated with both parents, or how does that work?
The class is integrated with both parents, but it's very important to understand that co-parents are not allowed to sign up for the same section.
Mm-hmm.
So every month, the beginning of every month, so September, the next one is September 7th, is a Tuesday, then September 11th is a Saturday. So every month we start a new unit, and there's a weekday section and a weekend section, and co-parents need to sign up for different sections. Now, one co-parent may sign up in August, the other one sign up in September. That's fine. One parent may sign up and take it in October, the other one takes it in December. That's fine too, as long as co-parents aren't in the same section.
Yeah, because you want people to feel free to just talk candidly.
Exactly. And it really helps with the introspection part, which is looking inward at yourself and what you need to do to make adjustments in emotional regulation and focusing on what you can and cannot control.
And there you go. That's so important. Talk a little bit more about the components, especially that introspective side of it.
Yeah, so the key component of ICC is what I call CORE, and that's an acronym for something I created that stands for what you care about, your options in the area for what you care about, your responsibilities in that area, and where you're spending your energy in that area. And I base those cores on health, education, values, joy, and parent and safety. And parents are, in the class, they go through and they develop cores in each of these different areas. And what that does is it helps them put a framework around exactly it is what's important to them, why it's important to them, and where they're focusing their energy in these areas. And I can give you a short example of how a co-parent would apply CORE to a conflict in their co-parenting relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we'll call her Jessica. Jessica's core in education is music lessons. And so under C, what I care about is piano lessons. And her options in this area, her options were to look for, whether she wanted them to take lessons at the school, lessons privately, lessons at a community center. So she identified where they were going to take lessons. Her responsibility was to make sure that the children had a place to practice, a keyboard at her house to practice, maybe financial responsibilities to pay for the lessons. Where she was spending her energy initially was she was upset that her co-parent, Malcolm, he was okay with the lessons. He didn't want to pay for a keyboard at his house. He didn't want to spend his resources on that. So she was going back and forth with him, spending a lot of her energy trying to get him to buy a keyboard or a piano. And this was causing problems in the co-parenting relationship. And her daughter then started to resent taking lessons because it was creating problems in the relationship. So where she was spending her energy was not supporting her core. When she shifted and decided she would look for other areas for her daughter to practice, she realized that the after-school program would allow her daughter to use their music room to practice for 30 minutes twice a week. Now, that wasn't ideal, but it was a lot better than arguing with her ex-husband about this. So she was able to shift her energy to support her core. And she was able to do that by focusing on what she could control, because she can't control Malcolm's decision not to buy a keyboard or piano.
Right. Excellent. So what are the parents coming away with from taking this course that they wouldn't have realized on their own?
Parents are understanding how to verbalize what it is that's important to them, and most importantly, how to let go and move on when they don't get exactly what it is they want. In no way, shape, or form are we designed, whether we're in a relationship that's intact or in a separated relationship, no one always gets exactly what they want. And we have to find healthy ways to respond emotionally when we're not getting exactly what we want. They also come away with really the ability to zero in and refocus on the child, identify how their needs and wants are separate from what their child needs and wants, and how to identify both and then respond accordingly in a healthy way.
That's really important. Thank you for emphasizing that. I wanted you to address how stress impacts that co-parenting relationship and how you handle that in the class as well.
Yes, stress is a key agitator in co-parenting relationships. If you're experiencing high stress, your ability to hear and interpret information accurately decreases, your frustration tolerance is lower, and you're more likely to act based on your emotions rather than thinking things through in a clear, organized manner. And honestly, collectively, our stress has gone up, tenfold over the past 18 months as we struggle with COVID-19. So I've seen the increase for the need for co-parenting therapy, co-parenting services. And in the class, we focus a great deal on mindfulness as a stress reduction, and then understanding how our thoughts and emotions impact our behavior and how we can use mindfulness to focus our thoughts in a calm, centered, rational manner that decreases stress.
And are parents finding themselves willing to get that message and let go of some of the control and some of the conflict and anger that they may be holding on to at the beginning of the program?
Honestly, I think to a lot of parents' surprise, they find the benefit in letting go because it is exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting trying to control something you have no control over. And I think that they find using that energy to refocus on their wellness and their child's best interest, true best interest, is they're getting much more, they're seeing the benefit overall from that. And so letting go, by the end of the 8 weeks, letting go is not nearly as difficult as they thought it would be.
That's fabulous. You use the phrase, the best interest of the child, which is used throughout divorce in every conversation, whether it's with an attorney or a therapist or a multitude of other professionals. And unfortunately, that term gets so used and abused. Can you talk a little bit about how co-parents can discuss best interest of our child in a civilized way so that they really can find what's a healthy way of making decisions?
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. That term is used and abused so much. I think if you and your co-parent can agree that your child is the focus of decisions that you make, and that if you and your co-parent can have a baseline agreement of the two of us are important in our child's lives, and we will support the child's relationship with each other, that's kind of the foundation for best interest. If you find that your actions are not supporting your child's relationship with their other parent, then you really have to take a step back and ask yourself why. And is this, in fact, in their best interest?
Yeah, that really is so pivotal. And sometimes we are so hard-headed about things, feeling justified in whatever beliefs we have, that we stop seeing what is truly in the best interest of our child. And that seems to be a huge challenge when you're dealing with two parents who are co-parenting and are not fond of each other any longer, right?
Right. And I think one thing that also I've had to remind parents of is just because your spouse or former partner was not a good partner for whatever reason, that does not equate to them not being a good parent. And how in your relationship with that parent, that your former partner, is not equate to the parent-child relationship. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
Yes.
So, maybe they weren't responsible, maybe they didn't, pick their socks up, or maybe they didn't, maybe they were, untrustworthy in your relationship. But their relationship with their child, it's completely different in so many ways. And you can't overlay your concerns for them in the relationship that you had with them onto their parent-child relationship. There are very few exceptions, physical abuse being one of them, substance abuse being another one. But in general, we're talking about two completely different relationships.
Yes, I agree, and I'm so glad you made that clear. I want to stop and take a minute now to give you an opportunity to tell us how people can find you, how people can find your program.
Thank you. So I have a website called iccparenting.com, and on there you can learn more about the program. You can also, on the home page, go down to register, and it takes you to the registration page. And I have a course, a unit that's going to come up in September 7th at 6 o'clock and the 11th at 10 o'clock. So those are the two open sections right now. I'll be adding more sections for October and November this week, so there'll be more sections open by the end of this week.
And what time zone is that?
This is the Pacific time zone. I'm located in California.
Okay.
But I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, that's important.
It is important. If I get more interest from other parts of the country or the world, in the future I will be opening up courses at different times, so later times, earlier times, to adjust for different time zones.
Excellent. So the website again?
iccparenting.com.
Excellent. So I know with my own co-parenting clients, I ask them a question about what do you think your children will feel and how will they react when asked what kind of a co-parenting job you did during the divorce. I want them to think ahead, because very often parents forget that their children are going to be grown-ups. It doesn't matter how many years it's going to be, but they're going to grow up and they're going to be adults, and they're going to hold you responsible for the way you co-parented. I was wondering if you address anything like that in your program and ask anything along those lines to get parents to really sober up and think about the future.
I don't do that exactly, but I do get them to ask themselves what are their goals for themselves now and their goals for their children 5 or 10 years from now, to get them to look at what is it they want now for themselves and what is it they want for their children 5 to 10 years out.
Yeah, and that's great because it gets them projecting ahead and realizing, as we both know, children change every year as they grow, and what may be working right now for your child at whatever age is going to be looking totally different in 3 years or 5 years, right?
Absolutely. That's another thing I do talk about is and this is for both in my class and co-parenting therapy and then evaluations. I do evaluations as well. I remind parents that your parenting plan is a living document, or it should be. Plan and schedule you have now, your child is 2, 4, 6, is going to be very different than when your child is 8, 10, 12, 14 years old, because their needs change.
Yes. Oh, that is so important for parents to recognize. And also the fact that co-parenting is a lifelong experience. So if you don't get it right early on, it's not going to get better on its own unless you put some energy into it.
Absolutely. You don't stop co-parenting when your child turns 18. You have college and jobs and weddings and grandchildren, all of that you want to be able to participate in without this dark cloud over your head because you don't get along with your co-parent, or there's just so much tension there that interferes with people's ability to, relax and have a good time, honestly.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you about that. So in the brief time we have left, Dr. Janella, I wanted you to just give us a takeaway, your last thoughts for our listeners to remember about the co-parenting experience.
It doesn't have to hurt while it gets better. I really believe that you can make it through this difficult time in a way that builds you up without causing, increased pain and discomfort after the loss of a relationship. So as things get better, and they will, you don't have to suffer.
Well, that's certainly an important reminder for all of us, especially for co-parents, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's ways to do things more effectively and successfully, and not only for yourself, but on behalf of the children that you love, and that's the most important thing of all, right?
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful talking with you and getting your insight. Your program sounds outstanding, the Introspective Comprehensive Co-Parenting Program, so I encourage all of our listeners to check that out. Check out Dr. Janella because she obviously has great wisdom to share, and co-parenting doesn't have to be suffering, as she said. Why not move towards a direction that's going to create peace and harmony for you and for your children and your family long, long after the divorce. So thank you, Dr. Janella.
Thank you, Rosalind.
Again, this is Rosalind Sedacca with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. And I'm the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, so you could find my coaching services, courses, books, and programs at childcentereddivorce.com. And you've been listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. Hope you'll join us next time. Bye-bye for now.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.